Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tennessee Twos Discgolf Podcast, Season 2, Episode 1. Uh, if you're listening to this and you usually listen to it live, you might be wondering, hey, Daniel, why didn't you guys do this live? Well, long story short, technical difficulties. Um, Interestingly enough, towards the end of last season, you probably have a lot of questions. Why did you guys take such a long break? This, that, and the other, blah blah blah. I promise you, we really missed you guys. And that's
True
that's all
story.
I can really say about it. Um, there's nothing wrong, nothing bad happens. Is just we both kind of hit a little bit of a burnout phase. Ethan had some really exciting news, but has probably been exceedingly daunting for him and his family. That is time consuming. I myself have been working my booty off. So many things have happened at work the last few months, and I'm working not necessarily a lot of overtime hours per se, but I am working a lot and it's been a little bit difficult. So we came to a little bit of a decision to take a small hiatus, try to get ourselves all back in order. We wanted to be back to you next week, but Ethan got a little behind on one of his projects that is now complete, which was moving his office from one room in his house to another room in his house.
Yep,
So that is complete, and we're back on schedule, sort of.
sort of.
Again, you might be seeing that we're not live. First and foremost, we originally did plan to go live tonight, but it wasn't in the cards. And honestly, it forced our hands to make a decision that we've been toying with for a few months, anyways, which was switching from doing our lives on Facebook to moving our lives to YouTube. Um, Honestly, the main reason is just we've been doing Facebook. We wanted to stay loyal to the people who have been with us on Facebook. However, I do believe that moving to YouTube is going to give us a really beautiful opportunity to um, see a new crowd come along, and shouldn't have any problem bringing a lot of you guys from the old crowd back. So, for anybody who might be listening to this for the first time, welcome to the show. We hope to see you live on this podcast next Tuesday on YouTube. We'll
Absolutely.
kind of get those details out a little bit better on our Facebook if you follow us already, on our Twitter if you follow us on Twitter, and on our Instagram. We'll make sure that the links to the YouTube are basically plastered everywhere so that somebody can join us and say hi, or nobody. You guys don't have to. You're more than welcome to keep listening to this aftermarket version as well. So, long story short, thank you guys so much for being patient with us while we took a small hiatus. And thank you so much for returning. And for anybody who's new, thank you for joining.
Absolutely. And
For anybody who's new, my name is Daniel. Across from me is Ethan. We are the Tennessee Twos Disc Golf Podcast, and we appreciate having you here.
that's right. That's right. And um, next Tuesday night, we should 100% be able to bring you a live show, um, barring no more technical difficulties. YouTube put us on a countdown, cool down of sorts, before we're able to actually go live there. Had to get everything verified. Um, a good way to keep the riffraff out, I guess. And we got to prove that we're not riffraff. So,
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, our 17, 18, 20 episodes last year apparently wasn't enough to prove, but
eh,
6 to 1,
you
half
know,
dozen the other. Who knows? The beauty of not being live for this episode is for anybody who has been keeping up with a lot of disc golf news and watches a lot of disc golf podcasts or listens to a lot of disc golf podcasts. This is going to be a huge regurgitation of the off season,
yep,
and it's just going to be our points of views. So if you guys don't really want to stay and listen to conversations about Simon all over again, you don't have to. Join us next week. It'll be more recent information. We'll do some things like predicting awards
yep,
for the 2023 season. Um, but tonight is going to be a really large recap of the off season because we've been gone for so long.
absolutely. And to kick it off, I guess we're going to go ahead and start with all of the sponsorship and contract moves. Um,
Yes.
there's a lot of
To
them.
to keep it short and sweet, we are not going to go over anybody who re-signed or extended. If you're interested in who re-signed or extended, you can use the same information that I'm using, which is the active contract tracker at Ulti World on their disc golf page. It's all up to date. They've got a lot of information, but we're going to focus specifically on new contracts for 2023 only. Okay. Just to make sure everybody is aware of that. Anything else to add there?
Nope, I believe we're good.
All
Get right
right.
on into it. Um, However, I don't know if you have that readily available to where we could just go ahead and pop this in here. Um, but one of the biggest uh, movements, I guess you would call it, throughout the offseason was Lone Star Disc. Um, Lone Star
Yeah,
Disc picked up quite a bit of players, uh, a lot. Um, and
they
they,
will. Yeah, they will actually be the first person we talk about will be Lone Star, and I'm going to go in chronological order from
all right,
the official signing announcement. So
sounds
for you
good.
guys who might be watching or listening, it's going to be out of order by manufacturer. I'm not going to go over every manufacturer. I'm going to go over the chronology of when they signed and who they signed with.
Right.
But it just so happens that the first signing to talk about is Nico Lacastro because his signing was the only one that officially happened in 2022,
Nice.
technically. So,
And um, right before we get into talking about Nico, because that's a big one, we're gonna go ahead and say that Lone Star is our presenting sponsor, and we really do appreciate them. Lone Star is a family-owned and operated disc golf manufacturer located in Conroe, Texas. They pride themselves on being the only disc golf manufacturer that currently produces, stamps, and ships its own product directly from Texas. Their main focus is to provide consistent and high-quality discs to golfers all over the world. Um, Make sure to keep your notifications on for Lone Star as the Frio and the Seguin,
Seguin.
Seguin, it up in Tennessee, I'm probably going to call it the Seguin. But it might be the Seguin. um, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to those of you that live there. Um,
You should be
and
apologizing directly to Lone Star.
I'm sorry, Lone Star. I'm sorry. It just like
Look, they're new discs. If we pronounce them wrong, I'm sorry.
I hope they put a
Correct us in the
penguin on
comments.
there. Um, but keep those notifications on because they are dropping uh, February 4th at all of your favorite Lone Star disc retailers and online. So definitely check them out.
All right. Of course, we thank Lone Star so much for being our presenting sponsor um, for this episode and for, I mean, minimum the first half of this upcoming year.
Oh yeah,
So really appreciate that. Um, and yeah, let's hop right into it. Nico Lacastro. Um, Obviously the biggest splash in terms of the first signing and the first notable newsworthy signing happened
right.
again before the turn of the year. It was basically the only big signing before the turn of the year. And Lone Star took a big chance
They did.
here. Um, I see no reason why it wouldn't pay off.
I
But
I don't either. I mean, and to be a little bit shocked, most of what I seen was everybody was glad that he was getting another chance, rather than
yes,
bashing him. So that's always good to see, positive outlooks. And we had kind of caught on to something at USDGC, remember? To where
right.
I seen on a Facebook story of Nico's, he was putting with jackrabbits and he had some armadillos, and I was like, hmm. So I
Yeah,
messaged Josh over at Lone Star real quick. I was like, what's going on here? And he just gave me the eye emoji, you know.
yeah. To put it lightly, quite a few of the Lone Star signings we had predicted fairly early comparatively to what anybody else did. But in the name of not being a so-called leaky leaker,
Exactly.
we didn't leak anything early. We didn't feel like it was fair because we did have an inside route to trade this information, and we didn't want to, you know, put stuff out there. Number one, if it didn't actually come to fruition, because the Nico signing was not technically done
No,
at
it
that point in
wasn't
time when
done
we
then.
noticed that it was a possibility. And of course, a few of the other signings that we saw, they were not, set in stone. We knew that they were going to happen, but that doesn't mean that it's going to happen. There's always catches when you start talking about contracts.
Right.
So, um, if we say something like, "Hey, we kind of saw this one coming," and you're like, "Oh, that's what everybody says." Well, we have an inside track, and we didn't want to betray that. So that's all I'm gonna say. If you don't believe it, you don't have to.
And his his signature discs, the Jackrabbits.
Yeah.
I bag one. I love it. It's a very overstable putter. Um, things it's really good. Um, I haven't got my hands on a signature series yet. Um, I don't know. Have you seen one yet?
No, I have
No, not
not.
yet.
And I was just down in my local store. Um, what day was that? On Sunday?
Yeah,
Sunday, I was down in my local store, and I didn't see any with the special stamp. So
right.
I'm not sure if they're packaging and shipping those yet. They might be something that's kind of getting packaged and shipped and ordered along with the Frio and Seguin, for their first
Said
official
that so
run. I'm
much
not
better
really
than I
sure.
could have. Again. It sounds yeah, now it sounds right. I just had to hear somebody else say it first. Again. Okay.
There you go.
So
But
what
I mean, I'm excited. I'm
what was
excited
your
for it.
what was your let it sink in reaction? Not your initial reaction because you kind of felt it, but what was your let it sink in and thoughts of how does this help Nico?
So, well, I'd have to look at from a different perspective. My my initial reaction was just wow in general. Um, and my kind of let it sink in reaction was this move instantly puts Lone Star on the map. So I didn't think about it so much from the Nico perspective. The first time I let it sink in, I thought about it from Lone Star and
Right.
what it was going to do for them. Because, I mean, my gosh, besides the massive signings that they continued to make throughout the offseason, this was the one that really kicked it off. And this was the one that was probably more surprising than any other one later on that we're going to talk about.
Right.
And this put the media on blast too. Any of the
Mhm.
disc golf media, whether you choose to call them media. I don't care if it's a big account that you follow on Twitter. If it's getting out there, it was some form of media, and it put Lone Star on the map instantly. Not just a little, hey, that's a small company. They look like they got something going. Is it? No, this was Lone Star's here to play. They're
Yeah.
not playing games this season.
Exactly.
They are here to be a contender. And Nico gives them a really good opportunity right off the bat to be contending. I mean, he started off very hot last year in a
Absolutely.
couple of different events and really kept a lot of pace going on. He got a little quieter the farther into the season that you got and into the thing,
Yeah.
the moment. Um, but he always, and he is still of the skill level, I should say, that he has the potential to make moves
Right.
at any given weekend.
Yep. I agree. I agree. I really like the Nico signing. So, um, who's number two? Who was signed to a new contract second? So the first one of 2023, correct?
The first one in 2023, I believe this is thoroughly in chronological order, but correct me if I'm wrong. um, Thomas Gilbert and Thought Space Athletics.
See, I had completely already forgot about this. Um, Thomas Gilbert 2 years ago, 2 seasons ago, was making a lot of headlines, a lot of splashes.
Yes.
Um, this past season, however, I feel like he I'm not so sure that he didn't I don't think he took a step back. I think a lot of others took a step forward. Um, to where he just wasn't on those chase cards, on those lead cards as much as we had seen him the season before. Um,
Yes.
so I think a change of pace for him is going to be a good thing.
Yeah, and I think overall, I kind of got the feeling I wouldn't go so far as to say he didn't take a step backwards. I think specifically he actually did come into the season and he struggled with confidence throughout the year.
Right.
Um, and that is essentially taking a step backwards. And, one of the things that we know is that, players that come in and learn a new disc or company or brand, they might look a little rough the first couple of events of the season, but a lot of times they're spending so much more time practicing than they did
Motivated.
with their old bag because of
Hmm.
that motivation. I think you're going to see a different level of confidence out of him later in this year.
I think so too. I think it can only be a good thing. Um, plus, Thought Space has got some really cool plastic. They really do. Um, they
Yes.
make some wicked stamps too. I will 100% give them that.
Yeah,
Their artist team is very good. Um,
absolutely.
so yeah,
So
that's one that Prodigy has lost.
that's it. We'll keep count on him. So
Yeah,
number one, that Prodigy lost. Next new signing was Emerson Keith,
the Lone
being
Star.
the next big name to Lone Star. Now, for anybody who's been listening to us since the beginning, or at least since the middle, if you guys remember, we had the very first, one of the very first big podcast episodes that included Josh Hofstra as the social media manager for Lone Star Discs. And he came in, he showed us some new discs, showed us some new stuff, played some games with us. One of the things that he did in that episode was he hinted at a new signing to expect at the end of this season,
Right,
previous season. Um, and obviously, it wasn't something that he could really say too much more, but they thoroughly felt that, in their opinions, he was a top 25 player on the circuit.
right.
And I think at the time, if you look at the numbers, I think he's slipped slightly out of top 25, but he was in the top 25 when he first came on the show and talked to us about that. Um, and I can't remember. I think it might have been one of the times that we were all in Discord together. Um, and we were all talking about it, and I was like, "Look, man, I'm not gonna tell you to tell me anything. I don't want you to spoil it for me, but I'm going to give you my prediction right now, and you're signing Emerson Keith at the end of the season. He's from Texas. He lives and breathes Texas outside of the Bruins, for anybody who knows. If you know, you know. Um, and I could absolutely see him coming closer to home and being the first big light for that company. Now, obviously, he ended up being number two,
Right.
unfortunately, but he was the first one that was hinted at, and that
Hmm.
was well in advance. Um, and that one really, really excites me. I think their disc lineup really suits his game
I think so
particularly
too.
well. That power forehand, the flexi forehands,
Yep.
um, and you know how much he relies on those forehands. And we've had a couple of opportunities now to see him play if you go onto the Lone Star page, as well as the GK Pro page, who covered an event, one of his first events, throwing Lone
Right.
Star. And he looked really good. You could tell he was uncomfortable with some stuff. Definitely still working out some kinks. It was Waco. It's windy at Bravo,
Yeah.
so you could tell he's working out some kinks. But I think he's picking up on that bag very quickly. For
Absolutely.
anybody who is wondering, he just won one of their local events. And actually, if you go onto the Lone Star Twitter and Instagram, you'll see that Lone Star took the entire podium at this event.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I thought that was really cool. I seen
All right.
the post today.
Yeah, that was really cool. We're going to talk about one extension only because it does pertain to us here in the Tennessee market. For anybody who didn't see, we'll talk about her signing a little bit later. but Mandahano has left um, Dynamic,
Correct.
and next in line to really kind of have an opportunity to take her spot as being the next best player behind Kona and her contract is Mesa Vela Diaz. So 1 year extension. I'm not gonna leak any details or anything. We're gonna try to get her on the show here in the preseason if we can for at least one episode, even if it's a shorter one. Maybe not quite what we did last year with her, where we had her on for most of the episode. Probably something more like a 20-minute interview.
Right.
But anything related to her contract, we'll let her spoil. But I did want to point that out that she's really in line to have a chance to
Absolutely.
be the next Manhano. And I
Because
do know that she's hitting a few more events. I believe she's actually hitting Vegas this year,
yeah,
if I remember her correctly.
that'll be
Um,
good.
so
Because Dynamic has lost Mandahano, Hanley, and Page Shoe. So it's there for the taking.
yeah, there's an opportunity. One of the things, if you guys follow her on social media too, is you might have noticed she kind of underperformed in the early part of the season, something that I didn't expect. I don't know that you expected either.
No.
And she kind of came out and she addressed that actually on social media at one point in time, and she basically said, "Hey, you know, I this is my first year having a mostly full tour, and I wasn't ready. I didn't know how to prepare myself for the struggles and the failure." And she basically addressed that she struggled to go from event to event and let her struggles from the previous event go moving into the next event. And about three-quarters of the way through the season was when she started to realize, hey, last week was last week, this week is this week,
Right.
it's time to perform. And interestingly enough, as you watched her season kind of progress from that point on, you saw a lot more top 10 finishes and being in
Absolutely. Yeah, for
contention,
sure.
a lot of lead cards, and not so much, she got herself onto a few lead cards last year before this, and every lead card was just like, oh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And the later part of the season, there was a lot more confidence. So it'd be really exciting to see what our local FPO hero can do here in the Knox region.
There you go.
Um, but that's the only extension we're really gonna spend any time on, just because it's the Tennessee Twos. Got to talk about Tennessee a little bit.
That's right.
All right, moving on. More from Lone Star. Who would have thought?
Who would have guessed?
They made all the early season splashes. Okay. Next signing was Deanne Carey, the
Hmm.
Diesel. Whew. I'm excited for this one. Was so excited when I
I'm
heard this one
I'm stoked about this one. I
because we had talked with Josh a couple of times, and a few times like we talked about, he had talked about an MPO signing. We had that feeling Nico was going, but we didn't know what's their move on the FPO side, and this was the big one. And I for one am just extremely excited to see what's going to happen.
yeah. I think that um so correct me if I'm wrong, but all she's ever threw is Innova. So she's kind of uh like a Haley King of sorts, to where
Yeah.
she had threw Innova for a long time and then swapped over. Um and then I don't know if we're gonna see a lull or a huge step forward. Um
Uh,
I it's hard to nobody can predict, but um I really think that the excitement containing Lone Star Disc and everything, all the new signings, all of the team presence, and all of their discs is going to have a huge impact on how she succeeds too.
yeah, and to be completely honest, like I know quite a few FPO players and how they build their bags. I know the ones that use max weight. I know the ones that throw mid weights.
Hmm.
I don't know much about what Deanne threw.
I don't either.
I could have told you a couple of discs out of her bag maybe a few months ago when I was still a little more fresh on my mind. But I mean, she's coming along at the perfect time with the Lima Plastic really advancing their lineup
Yeah.
in the midweight section, um, and she's got some decent power hidden in there as well. So she shouldn't have any problem with the fact that Lone Star is pretty dominantly overstable currently.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good fit. And her brother as well.
That is,
Um,
of course, the very next one because
yep,
they announced it on the same day.
yep. The carries.
AJ Carey
Yep.
also coming along to Lone Star Disc. Now, interestingly enough, just based on field size, DN Carey obviously gets a lot more attention
Right.
overall. She's a lot more visible, but I don't see anything that could be negative about this move for AJ as well.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Absolutely.
think he's going to fit the mold pretty perfectly. I know he's got some pretty quiet power himself as
Yeah.
well from the things that I've heard and seen. So it'll be exciting to see what he can do throwing some of that plastic.
Mhm. Yeah. That's
Uh,
always my favorite part of like the beginning of the season. That's how they get us every year. They get us every year.
yeah.
Cuz like they'll be going into Vegas, which is the worst event in the season, and we're all so excited because we're like, wonder how they're gonna
Disc
throw,
golf,
wonder how they're gonna do. I
live
need
disc
it.
golf.
Yeah, so kudos
Yeah,
to kudos to them because they know what they're doing.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I'm excited to see how all of these new signees uh throw some plastic.
yeah. Really, really see how they work them out. The next new signing was actually Stacy Ronsley making the full move to Castoplast. Um,
Love it.
look, I really do. I have to say, I love Lone Star Discs, and I love what they do for us here at the podcast. But in terms of just pure hand feel, Castoplast has the best plastic on the market. And I'm so glad. I was so scared when they announced the, um, partial at the very least buyout with Latitude that the plastic would change and it
Yeah,
wouldn't be what we
that
came
we
to
talked
know and
about
love.
that for a long time.
I was so afraid, and so far nothing has happened. Nothing has changed, um, and I'm just excited to see more Cast Blasts out there because there isn't a lot out there right now,
Right.
um, and I'm super stoked to see more of it.
Yeah, I mean,
That's my biggest thing.
yeah. And, you know, here on the podcast, we're fans of all disc golf, you know. So, well, most disc golf. I don't really know anything that I don't like, but I'm sure there's probably something out there. But I mean, I
I
have a
mean,
dog.
I could come up with a couple off the
I
top of my
literally
head,
have
but
a dog and I named her Casta. you know? So, like um it's
much
just
to the
because
dismay of your wife.
yeah. Yeah. But no, I think Stacey Ronsley, she was completely open bag last year, correct?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I thought she leaned in one direction in particular.
Maybe,
Oh,
but I was
that
thinking
is
that she was an open bagger. Um, I know like she seemed to be off put and off by herself a lot. Um,
yes.
but um, maybe getting on a team, uh, in a team environment could really help her on that too. Um, and she might just not want that kind of interaction. I have no clue.
You
But
know, and for somebody who's, I it's funny how, in your early days of disc golf, I find that it's almost better for players to sign with a smaller team, not necessarily a small team, but a specific company.
yeah,
Because personally speaking from experience, I'm somebody who loves trying new discs. And I have no loyalties when it comes to trying new stuff. I have a couple of companies I'm a little averted from based on hand feel. I just don't like the way they feel in my hand. But
hmm,
for the most part, outside of that, I love trying new stuff. And I think that a lot of players who are at her level could benefit from focusing down a little bit.
yeah,
If you're throwing an open bag at that age and that level, you might not be as focused in your disc choices as you could be, and this will definitely help you kind of pinpoint a little bit better. When you get a little older and you've played for a long time, sometimes switching back to an open bag is a really good choice. But I think for the younger players, it's actually a really good thing to narrow down their um, choices,
Right. No, I
because
completely agree.
I think we can all speak to the fact that when you have too many choices, it can be very overwhelming, and sometimes you don't make the best choice.
Right. Yeah, that is
Um,
correct.
the next new signing, and this is the only new acquisition for Innova this year, is Juna Heinen. I can't speak to it. I don't know enough about Juna to really say. Um, but it is a 2-year contract, and it is new for Innova. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah,
Out on the European tour, we're going to see a little more of, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I don't know enough to speak to that. I don't know about
I
you.
do not either.
Fair enough. In that case, we will continue on. Maria Oliva made the next big splash in chronological order, and that is Thought Space. Um, it was about time for Thought Space to bring on an FPO player,
I thought so as
wasn't it?
well. Yeah. I was
So
kind of we were kind of wondering um when they would make a full deal to some FPO player.
yes, yeah. So
They got a good
um,
one.
I, yeah, that's going to be really exciting. Maria had her fair share of struggles last year, but towards the end of the season, it really felt like she had dialed in a lot of her game.
Mhm.
And again, this new switch to a company is probably going to ignite some new excitement and motivation
Yeah,
for her.
absolutely. Um and she is currently, at least last time I looked, she was currently dating Luke Sampson, right?
I believe so,
I think
but I
so
wouldn't, I wouldn't, I wouldn't
because
be comfortable being quoted on it
yeah,
because
because
I don't keep up
in
with disc golf relationships.
in my mind, I was thinking, I was like, oh, that sets up perfectly for her to go to Castaplast,
Yeah, yeah, you
and
thought.
then I was like, nope,
Well,
thought space athletics instead.
oh, you thought.
I thought, but no, I think it's a good move for both parties. Um, it's kind of the same thing you said with Stacy. It's like getting out from under the umbrella a little bit and focusing in on some new stuff and go from there. I think she can really grow her game because her game had took leaps and bounds last year, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, even just within the season, not just last year in general.
Yeah,
Um, because there were definitely some times where I expected to see her up towards a leaderboard, and I would check, and I'm like, wow,
yeah,
she is not going to cash.
right,
But towards the end of the season, it really felt like she was there a lot.
exactly. Yeah, she kind
Um,
of got it all together.
so the next string of signings was all from Clash. James Proctor, Scott Withers, and Erica Stinchcomb. Um, I'll start with Erica because again, Clash is definitely one that definitely needed to add some FPO presence as well.
Yep,
And I think they got a great one. It was a really solid opportunity to get their discs out there.
absolutely. Um, so you said you wanted to start with Erica?
Yeah,
Okay. So it's kind of it really sucks for Westside to start off with to lose Erica. Um, because even though she wasn't like at the top of the leaderboard,
right.
um, every single time she was a household name. Everybody knew her because of the discs, the sword. Um, I mean, they had really good signature series discs for her, and she got a
Yes.
lot of recognition because of those. And then towards the end of the season, where we actually got to see, kind of in the northeast swing, where she started uh, really piling on a bunch of good performances. Um, we all kind of got to see how she plays and
Yes.
see what kind of professional athlete she is. And she is not a slouch. She is very good. Um,
Yeah.
I think
No, absolutely.
Clash really really hit some gold here. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like it's a great pickup by Clash.
Yeah, absolutely. What about Scott Withers?
So I have to put these two together. I have to, Scott Withers and James Proctor, because I mix them up all the time.
You're not wrong.
Um, I just do. They're both Innova guys. They're both older. Um, I know they said that it was James Proctor, correct? That, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the teacher that didn't want to go full time onto touring, or was that Scott Withers?
I can never remember.
All right, well, see,
I
all right,
mix them up just as bad as you do.
okay,
I just know that every time we get up into the Northwest is when we get to see them.
yes, exactly. You know,
And I
uh,
love watching them because
they are great. They
it's
are
so fun
great
to watch.
players, and
And
I'm
they
hoping that with them getting this sponsorship from Clash is that
yeah.
we see them on tour all year. I hope that they tour the whole time. That would be best case scenario, and if Clash can make that happen, then it's a absolute win.
Or at least get them outside of their home regions. Even if they
Right.
don't go full tour this year, get
Maybe
them
do
outside
like
of
a
their home
Chris
regions for a few
Dickerson
more
type
events.
tour.
Yeah, I think that might even be asking a lot. I mean,
I don't know. They
I
need
know
it.
Chris's break was real long, but um, yeah, because I know that they're still going to be expecting Eric Oakley to kind of be their main front man as it is right now, and he's going to be their touring pro
Right.
technically.
Right.
But Eric Oakley has his name in so many bags right now. It's really hard to distinguish him with Clash
That's what I was
comparatively
about
to
to
like
say.
these other guys.
I was like, why? I missed that one. So did Eric Oakley sign with Clash? Like,
Yeah, technically it's an extension.
it's just not exclusive.
No, no,
Okay.
no exclusivity. And
So he's
I
doing
don't know
like the
enough
Scott
about.
Stokely type thing now, or
I, I don't know. I
because
mean, Eric
Stokely,
Oakley has his.
he's like anybody that'll give me a signature disc, I'll throw it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, so Oakley is still going to be dominantly infinite,
Right.
right? But he's still a very good name to kind of have attached to you.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Especially if
the
even if
social
it's
media
just.
part of it alone will
Yeah,
help out.
exactly. All right, continuing on, back to Lone Star. Who would have thought that
Wow.
there was more Lone Star? Oh my gosh. Lone Star doubling down on their FPO presence with the signing of Lisa Fakis. Were you ready for that?
I did not. After they signed Deanne Carey, I was like, oh, that's their FPO presence. I was like,
That's it.
that's
That's
it.
the one.
That's it. And then when I seen where Lisa had signed, and it kind of flew under the radar a little bit.
Mhm.
Maybe it was just me, but I was like, it had happened like 3 days prior, and I just had seen it, and I'm like, what? What? Are you serious? Is this fake? Like, cause I thought everybody was just trying to like Photoshop red shirts, and
Nope.
it
There
wasn't
was
fake.
that was a thing that
That was
happened
a thing,
for
right?
quite a
So
while.
I thought it was fake. Like, legitimately thought it was fake. And I had to do a little research. I was like, oh, oh my God,
This is real.
this is real. I was like, I can't wait to throw something that's Lisa Fakis's. Like, this is awesome. She has always been one of my subtle favorites in the FPO
Yes.
division. Um, every podcast she's ever been on or commentary, love it. I I don't know. I just like hearing her. Like the
Yeah.
way that she talks, perfection. I like it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
I
she
think it's
plays
a
pretty
great.
good too, so.
Yeah, I think it's a great pickup. I mean, at the very least, Lisa finds herself on a few lead cards throughout the year.
Yeah.
And with Lone Star also sponsoring the Music City Open this year, um, being the presenting sponsor, I would almost imagine you can expect her on the feature card day one. Uh, I would be very surprised not to see her and Deanne
Yeah.
on at the very least one on the chase card, one on the lead card for TGN.
I don't know. I feel like they might have Leah up there too, maybe.
It's also quite possible.
Yeah,
I would say Leah probably is gonna
because
slide
she's
more
the
into that chase
OG,
card than the feature.
right?
But who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
I
I'm excited to find out.
She might slide in and be the feature
Oh yeah,
because she is the long stander.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, just absolutely, tripled their FPO presence, if not, quadrupled it
right.
in 2 signings,
Yeah,
essentially. And that's pretty exciting to see. The other Lone Star signing, Robert Burridge.
sneaky.
Sneaky.
You watch.
Who's not?
Hot take right now. He gets a
Okay.
podium finish in the first half of the season.
I'd say that's a just hotter than warm take.
First third of the season. Ha.
All right, I'll give you that.
Okay. Yeah, no, he's
Yeah,
really really good. He's young,
and
but man,
big,
he has
big
got a
arm,
huge arm.
and that's gonna really help him out in that first half of the season.
I think so too.
That's why I say it's kind of like a warm take because
I hate how much you
he's out there.
know. I don't like
Come,
that.
come on, man, he is just out there, uh, throwing the mockingbirds 550 feet
Yeah,
quietly.
quietly.
Just you're talking. I mean, what is the mockingbird? A 7 speed?
Yeah.
It's just freaking smashing it out there. Like, look, 450 feet with the 7 speed disc, that is approaching
Literally,
elite arm talent.
that is literally how to kill a mockingbird.
Okay. That is massive to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna pump this out 556 feet on the first day I'm throwing it.
Yeah. Let me see what this can do.
And I mean, I'm sure we all remember his legendary duel at Des Moines Challenge.
Yeah.
So look,
Yeah.
he has eyes on him.
Yeah. He does.
He has eyes on him. That's all I gotta say. Um, we are going to go back to James Proctor for a second
Okay.
because he also added thought space.
So Clash and Thought Space.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think what we're seeing here is kind of like I said. I don't know that Clash is really ready to support
Right.
um, a full-time touring pro in and of themselves just
Right.
yet. I don't know. I would want to say Clash made some really big splashes this year, but I think you're still looking at Clash being at the level that we saw Lone Star at last year,
Last year.
which was the touring pro. You're going to be required to throw this percentage of the bag as Clash, and then mixed for the rest.
Right.
Might be a little bit larger of a percentage than what Lone Star did last season, but definitely I don't think their lineups able to support a full bag just yet.
Right. I can see that.
Mason Ford
Yeah. I didn't
slid on down to mint.
I this is one I didn't expect. I'm gonna be honest.
I
With
expected. So the Twitterverse was talking about this one a little more because it came in conjunction. His departure announcement, I think, was at the same time as Val's.
yeah.
And the word on the street and keep in mind, this was when we knew that Lone Star had one more MPO and one more FPO signing. So the climate was very much so Lone Star or Mint, and both of them go, which of
Yeah.
course didn't happen. But at least on the Twitterverse, it was a little less surprising because it was very well
Yeah.
publicized on the Twitter side that they expected both of them to go to a Texas company.
Yeah.
And that
And
was that.
I don't know enough about mint discs. I know I've threw the goat and I've threw the lobster. Um
I know that I put out a tweet a little while back where I just asked people to give me
yeah, I
one
seen
disc. What is the one disc that you would recommend I try this year? Ended up getting like 80 plus responses, and I saw a lot of jackalopes in there.
Oh yeah, that's
That
their
is
understable fairway, right?
that's their. I don't know if it's understable. I thought it was more like T-birdish.
Oh, maybe. I seems like I remember the disc golf podcast. Um, doing and they're like huge proponents out in California of the jackalope. And I think, of course, I don't know how big an arm they have, but
It is a little more understable. It's actually so it's more of a Falk,
yeah,
eight
okay,
speed, 5 glide, -2 1.
yeah.
Um, but I do know if I'm pretty sure that their plastic runs on the more overstable side compared to Casta. So I'd imagine it's not as flippy as a Falk ends up being.
Yeah, maybe not. I
But
don't know.
definitely
I
understable.
hadn't threw one.
No, no, but I know that it was getting a ton of love.
That's
So
always a
much
good. That's
love.
always a good sign. Always a good sign.
Yes.
As long as you can have that one disc hit, um, people will try the rest of your lineup because they love that disc so much that they're like, oh,
Right.
let's see what else they make.
Um, So yeah,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that signing overall though? Mason
So,
throwing
um,
the minties.
I am not sure if it's a full bag. I don't know if it could be. I don't know if Mint
I'm
has the
pretty
full lineup.
I I'm pretty sure that he has not signed with anybody else.
Right,
So I don't know if that it's exclusivity plus a percentage,
right.
so he can't sign with anybody else, but he can throw other things or not.
Yeah, I would be curious to know that because if it's completely just a Mint bag, um, I think we're going to get to see just how talented Mason is and what he can
Right.
do with what he has. Um, I remember, I mean, 2 years ago when I walked with the lead card, um, Mason was like astounding to watch, and that was the year that he won the Music City Open,
Yes.
and he he was like, I actually have his um, signature right there on that card.
Hey, there you
Um,
go.
so I'm a fan of Mason, and I hope that this does well for him, but it is not what I would have expected.
No. So they have currently a 13 disc lineup in production. So, but again,
So they
we
have
haven't seen him.
enough.
I
They
don't
have enough.
think I
It's
see
just
his name on another brand currently. It might pop up somewhere that I'm not seeing. I don't see it. So, m- I would have to guess at that point. Then you're talking an exclusivity deal plus open ended bag.
right. And that's
Um,
something to watch, you know. But congratulations to Mint for getting Mason.
yeah,
Um,
that's a big get.
it is a big get. A lot of people may not think that, but I feel like we and there's a lot of people out there that are really paying attention to disc golf. They know how good Mason is.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I'm gonna go out of chronological order here, real quick.
Okay.
And since we're talking about Mason, let's talk about Valerie Mandujano as well, just because there was a lot of talk that they would go together wherever they went. So
I
Mason signing with Mint essentially closed the door on that,
Yeah.
because I think that if they both went the same place, it was going to be Lone Star. Lone Star really is the only other company in that niche category that has a full bag availability
Right.
in their lineup size right now. And I don't know that Lone Star would have been able to afford both of them on top of what they had already signed.
Right. I
Um,
that's
you know,
Valerie. She
Josh,
deserved a max contract.
yeah, and I don't know that they couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
When we talked to Josh a couple of different times last year, he was very convinced that
Yeah.
they would be competitive in the market, and they definitely were.
They absolutely were.
But if Valerie Mandujano pulled Tatar Panis type contract, I don't think Lone Star could have fronted that on top of what they already forked out.
Right. That
Um,
that would be like
and I
a next year signing. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like to where
exactly.
they've got this influx of players, and then
So
yeah,
for anybody who's like, hey, I mean, you haven't even mentioned where the heck she's going, and you don't already know,
Discraft.
um, Discraft. So she
Um,
signed with Discraft, and I have to say, if you look at that side by side and you think, well, why didn't she sign Mint and Infinite or something along those lines? I think I'm confident in the concept that Mint is an exclusivity plus open ended bag. Um, and they were not going, Valerie was not going to take that kind of a deal. The lineup's not big enough to support Valerie
yep.
single handedly. I don't think she was going to go to an open ended bag somewhere. And there was nobody that I really think of looking at any of the list that screams, hey, you know, I'm gonna give you that type of a contract,
Right.
and it's also worth having the open-ended bag or signing somewhere else because I'm gonna sign you to less, or this, that, and the other. So, Discraft offered what she was looking for, and Alexis re-upped with Discraft as well.
Right. It makes
So,
sense to have the Mondahano sisters. Honestly, Discraft got a killer. Like that's who they like. They like the elite. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They they
they like, and I'll use a competition elite level athlete term. They like a killer instinct player,
exactly.
and Mandahano fits that bill.
We talked about it so
Mandahano smells
much.
blood.
Exactly.
Paige Pierce smells blood.
I was Mandahano's
Kristen
biggest fan
Tatar
last year. You know,
smells blood. Okay, Paul Macbeth smells
smells
blood.
blood.
They want that. They drive for it, and I have no doubt that if any company could have afforded, uh, you know, whatever Paige Pierce is already making, and added another one, it was Discraft.
Yeah. No, I agree. I completely
Because
agree.
where else does she go? Innova?
No.
There's nothing for her there.
No.
You know what I mean? I just
I
so
completely agree with that. I
yeah.
think that
I
Discraft fits her. It fits her. Like I can see her repping Discraft. I already see it. You know what I mean? Like it's of course her sister looks very similar and I see that. So
we've already
um
seen it. To be
it's
fair,
there.
to be fair,
Yeah. You know.
to be fair.
Now they can swap clothes. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they can just have a complete wardrobe in that big old bus.
Oh my gosh. Just start getting Manahano's sister like merch.
Mason's gonna end up getting kicked off of that bus. Because it was Mason and Val on one side for dynamic, and then it was Alexis on the other side with just Discraft. Now
No,
it's
it's
gonna
just
be like
Mason.
it's gonna be like he's gonna have like a quarter section of the beside the muffler over here, and it's gonna be Discraft,
Yes.
Discraft.
he's he's gonna get the back,
Yeah.
and then
Oh, true. I bet that's what it is.
he's gonna get the back, and then it's gonna be Alexis on one
Alexis and,
side
and
and
Val.
Val on the other side, and then a big Discraft logo on the hood.
Yep. Yep.
Oh
It's mint.
gosh. All right, back to chronological order. Gavin Babcock making noise, signing
Yeah.
with Disc Mania.
Did you expect this to make this
No,
much noise?
I didn't expect it to come. First of all,
But like
not
this was
surprised that it made big noise.
I I was a little
Um,
surprised that it made this much noise. I like
so here's the thing. I think part of the reason any Discmania signing was automatically immediately elevated by the
mhm.
Simon Chronicles, and
Yeah.
that's all I'm going to call it until we get into his, which we're going to go out of order for him as well. Sorry for anybody who's listening. We're going to save him to the very last one we talk about. But any Discmania signing was instantly elevated by the Simon Chronicles
Yep.
because there was so much speculation by this point in time, and it was not quiet. It was everywhere. Um, so I'm not surprised it made that much noise. The question is how much of that noise was made because it was a really good signing versus because of the situation surrounding it.
Right.
Um, you know, I think it's about 50-50. Number one, great signing. We saw awesome stuff out of Gavin last year. I mean, who doesn't remember when he won the Traeger at Champions Cup for a CTP? He threw basically as the first card on the course the first day,
Yeah,
and that CTP held the whole
the
weekend.
whole weekend.
The whole weekend.
And he has the most iconic step putts.
He
Like,
really does it so clean.
his step putts are the best in the game.
That'll be a topic for a later date, man. That is a huge source of contention in the disc golf community right now.
Yeah,
Step putts.
yeah.
That's a conversation for another day.
Well,
But
we'll
we're
get
definitely
there.
talking about that.
But
We're gonna talk
maybe
about
we
that.
should have Gavin on when we talk about that. That would be
Oh.
yeah.
I'll leave
Spicy.
you to signing that one up.
It's a spicy meatball.
Yeah. I'm really excited. With the big loss that they took, it's going to elevate him in
Yeah, I
profile
agree.
just because of
Close
that.
one.
And so it's going to be really fun to watch. I can't wait to see him throw a cloud breaker.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um,
It's his-
he fits
Gavin is one of the players
honestly.
that doesn't show it a lot while he's on tour, but he could definitely unlock that unlimited power level.
Oh yeah,
Like,
it's there.
it's
He
there.
throws a lot of low speed discs,
Mhm.
and gets that kind of distance. So I don't know.
Oh
Maybe
yeah,
they let him be a baby crush boy, and
A
try
little
to
baby
grow
crush
in.
boy. Yeah.
Because the dude is jacked. All right, the dude is
he's
jacked.
he's just like a couple protein shakes and maybe an injection of mystery liquid away from being Ezra.
No, you did not say that.
Look, I'm not saying Ez
We
did.
know, do
I'm just
know.
saying that he looks like he did.
He does look like he did. Because ain't nobody getting that way off of beans. I'm telling you right now. I ain't never seen no beans look like that. Make a
come,
man look like that.
come on, listen. Okay, who's ever looked at that guy and thought,
That's natural.
like, I mean, that's not too far off of Barry Bonds, and I mean, Barry Bonds, nah. Well, nah.
What?
Well,
Nah, he is.
he's
He's
jacked,
yeah.
bro.
He's yoked. He's different. He's different.
he's, he's built different, bro.
Yeah, for real though.
Anyways, Gavin Babcock, I'm super excited to see what he does. Can't wait to see him throw FDs all over the course.
Yep.
That'll be really fun. Maria Oliva coming around again because again, Thought Space is definitely a lineup that cannot support a player by itself. So she also signed along to Infinite. Now, one of the things I really liked about some of these Thought Space Athletic signings the last couple of years is that they have been the first signing.
Right.
And I can almost guarantee you that anybody who has signed with Thought Space knew that they were going to sign with Infinite, and Infinite kind of tipped the cap and let them sign with
Yeah.
Thought Space first. And I think that's really cool because it kind of saw that trend. Like Infinite knows they're the mixed bag company, and they're giving precedence to
The
the other
manufacturer
because here's
first.
the thing, you give precedence to that manufacturer because you're also the biggest mix dealer online, which
Exactly.
means that you're
It
also going
helps
to
your
make money
business.
off of the Pro Tour series that Thought Space. I
Yep.
mean, it's a brilliant business planning, but it's also beautiful to kind of just see that tip of the cap. Like
Yeah.
you get your single company signing out there, we'll announce you. You
Yep.
know, so
That's
it's
right.
really cool. I like seeing that. No surprise to see a player of Oliva status get that mixed bag thrown in there. Holland Handley. This was kind of the first one that we really saw in the offseason that rehashed all of the
Yeah.
January of 2022 conversations of what is going on at
Yeah.
Innova. it was 2022 all over again when she announced her departure. She signs with Discraft. Again, the thing.
Wait.
This is a great preparation signing. I think if I really think about it,
Back up.
back,
She wasn't
back.
with Innova.
No, what?
She wasn't with
Really?
Innova. She was with
I swear
Dynamic.
she was.
You're thinking
Oh
of Holly
yeah.
Finley.
No, I'm never thinking of Holly. Holly Finley. That is. I mix Holland up with European that I'm just brain farting right now. Um,
Henna?
she's yes. I mix Holland and Henna up very
Got you.
consistently.
Yep.
Um,
Well, I took you completely off track. I'm sorry. But
Yeah, no,
no,
no. So, but you're right. So it wasn't that it rehashed Innova. It hashed dynamic in the same light as Innova.
there we go.
Uh,
We're back on
that's what
track.
it was.
Because
I'm
they
sorry.
lost, they did lose Val and Holland and Paige Shoe.
Yeah,
uh
yeah. So that was a triple whammy departure, and I
yeah.
mean the Page Shoe one was just so surprising for so many people. I think of all the departures, that was the one that people really thought, oh, what is happening over
Yeah.
there?
No, I completely
So
agree.
it hashed dynamic into that weird like what's going on over there
Yeah.
kind of conversation, and I I came up with the answer um, that I think personally that you're talking about three really solid players that went to dynamic and said, "Hey,
You see what you paid
I
them?
outperformed Canis. I outperformed Canis last year. What can we do?"
Mm-hmm.
And they said, uh, "Re-up your contract from last year. Add a signature series disc. How about that?" And
Yeah.
they all said,
No.
"Yeah, see you never."
Yeah. No.
I,
I
that's
think
what it really felt like to me.
I think we're
Um,
getting to see to the point now, at least in the FPO stage of dynamic, that the Kona contract has indeed hurt them. Um,
yes. I
I'm
mean,
not
she
saying
still,
like it
to
hurt
be
them
fair,
money wise. You know what I mean? Necessarily, which it did, but it hurt them with negotiations moving forward.
yeah. Well, because I mean, they kind of went half in, half out with how the season ended up going, because of course they're a part of Trilogy, and the other Trilogy mega deal for the FPO side was a symphony.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And then there was her side, which was she got so behind and lacked so much confidence throughout the season and got a lot of hate on her socials and where she makes her money as a disc golfer that
right.
she actually had to stop posting for a while because it only made everything worse.
Right.
And I have to say, I mean, to come out of all of that and still basically have the best dynamic Tour Series disc sales from the FPO side is pretty impressive.
It is impressive.
That was, um, yeah, she sold a lot of Tour Series discs
I
last year from
I
everything that
expect a
I've heard.
rebound this year from Kona. I truly do.
Yeah, I really interesting to see where Headspace is going to be at this upcoming year.
Mhm.
But I think it's going to be in a better place.
I think so too.
I think, um,
We're rooting
you
for
know,
you,
we we
Kona.
we
Truly.
we talk about how the first few events when you're with your new bag um, are never going to look great. Ricky looked suspect until Texas State.
Yeah.
He really did. He was pretty sus with his bag, and then it all fell in line. Now the problem is that it felt like Kona never found the confidence in her bag that she was looking for, and I think I'm hoping uh, that she was able to kind of hit that reset button and come into this year, and now she's going to have had her bag. Probably made a couple of changes, but she's going to go into the season with confidence in her bag as opposed to trying to find the confidence through the season and just not finding it.
Right.
So, little sidetrack there. No big deal. We already talked about Valda Discraft, so we don't really need to talk about that one again. We have one final really big Discraft signing, and then another Discraft signing that is one off of Discraft. Let's start with the off Discraft, which was Austin Hannum to DGA.
I mean, I could have guessed that with my eyes closed. I mean, I did actually.
Nobody's there was nobody surprised by that one. We're gonna be honest.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I've pride myself on not keeping up with disc golf relationships, but I
yet
mean
here
that
we
one
are.
is pretty loud.
Yeah.
that that one's not exactly the most quiet relationship, and it seems to be a pretty strong relationship. So, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Hashtag sorry, Yuli. I mean, what? Did I say that? Oh,
Oopsie.
man, that was a long time ago, though.
Yeah.
That was a long time. But anyways, I'm pretty excited for it. I mean, Austin Hannum has unreal forearm talent.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it's about whether he can kind of hone that in. But I mean, he's going to be throwing hypercanes all over the place with
Oh
that
yeah.
forehand.
He'll
Yeah,
do
it's going to be fun
fine
to
there.
watch.
Yeah, he'll do
Yeah,
absolutely fine. We'll see him here and there, just like we normally do,
yep,
and he's gonna make some splashes,
yeah,
like he usually does. And I don't, I wouldn't be surprised if his game gets better, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it stays right where he is. So,
yes,
um, he he kind of holds the key to his success with
yeah,
any
yeah,
disc that he
absolutely.
uses. So,
All right, the uh final massive big, if you will, announcement from Discraft. There's a few more Discraft signings we'll talk about. But how about the go get from Anthony Barella?
I I don't. I mean, Paul had so much to do with that. Like that's the kid. You know what I
He
mean? He's the
he's
kid.
Paul's little protege.
Exactly.
He's a really
Um,
tall protege.
really tall and really far throwing protege with great hair. And
Yeah,
I I will say it right now that AB finds himself this year.
yeah.
He
I think
I
I've seen enough of what has been on camera between Paul's channel and the Shelly Sharp Memorial
Yep.
to say that he's gonna probably fit in that Ricky last year. Uh, he was in contention at LVC
Oh yeah.
last year. He'd probably be close. I think he's definitely gonna be confused. Vegas is a really weird place in terms of elevation versus wind versus openness
Yep.
and exposure. And that's gonna put his knowledge of a new bag to the test.
Oh yeah.
So he is going to be tested out there. I'm interested to see exactly how he responds,
Yet
and
again,
how his
Vegas.
how his
That's how they get us.
it's it'll be
They just
interesting to
let
see how
everybody
how
else
his
do the
bag.
work.
That was the most exciting, unexpected signing for me. I
I
think.
didn't even know that Innova was had him as a free agent. It's so hard to tell with Innova players what's going on. Like, I
Innova does their thing now where it's just like they announce all of their signings at one time and that's it.
yeah,
Outside of Calvin.
yeah.
They locked Calvin up immediately after the season. They were like, "You're staying.
Well, I mean, literally, Calvin is a top 5 player in the world, and
Your last face."
he is the last face. If you have any chance of selling discs, for the most
Well,
part, don't hold me to that. I'm talking about like from the competitive scene.
to the competitive scene, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, because let's be honest, I mean, you're just not you're not gonna see Nathan Queen going out there and selling enough wraiths to really talk about.
Right.
He's gonna sell a lot if he plays this whole season and his shoulder stays decked, but nothing like what you see sales wise. And I thought it was really funny at the beginning of that whole scenario where everybody was like, Calvin might leave this year. Calvin
Did you
might leave
say?
this year. And I'm like, bro, he just released his first creator series with them
Yeah.
a
No.
month ago. He is signing. And then it was like a week later that they were like, "We're re-signing Calvin Heimberg." I
Yeah,
was like, "That surprised me."
yeah.
That was, but
So,
no, but losing Anthony and bringing him along, that was a little bit surprising to me because the thing about Anthony is he is the epitome of underperforming his talent level.
well, that's what I was about to say. He's like the protege of, or is that no? He is the prodigy, I guess. What is the prototype? He is the disc golf prototype. There we go. That's
Yes,
that's the word. Like
he's
tall.
Gannon Burr before Gannon Burr was Gannon Burr.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. He is the prototype, and what he can do with a disc, some people can't ever physically do. You know.
Absolutely not. And I
So
mean, if you really want to look at it, and a lot of people will be like, "Well, I mean, how did Gannon Burr do what Gannon Burr last year if he's just the new Anthony Barella?" And it's called headspace. Everybody,
yep.
Anthony Barella, um, he locks his mental game very quickly when he meets adversity. Um, a lot quicker than most players his talent level because if he could recenter and refocus his headspace after bogeys
Yeah.
better than he does,
And you can see it in
he would be a
AB's
world
face.
champion
He
already.
shows it.
Yeah, and
His
it's
cheeks
it's
get
immediate.
red, like yeah, like you know when things are about to turn downward for AB.
Yeah,
Um,
he he is the epitome of needs to find a new headspace while he's playing.
and I
Um,
think being on a team full of legends is gonna help that.
yeah. Well, I mean, I would imagine he's going to be spending a lot of time with Paul again, and we all know he was Paul's little protege.
And that's gonna continue. And don't expect anything less. I Paul Paul
What if we saw this off season? What if it really was is Anthony Barella? He texted Paul and says, "I don't want to be beat by this version 2.0 of me anymore this season. I don't want that to happen this season." And Paul says, "Come over to Discraft. We'll spend a little time together. I'll make sure you won't lose to Gannon ever again."
can we get a movie started? That that
That's
cause like I feel like we're starting this rivalry between AB and Gannon Burr, AB and GB going at it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like they probably love each other, but like, but
The
just
modern disc golf prodigies.
yes, just imagine like the fun that could be had making a movie
Oh,
about
absolutely.
the next Ricky and Paul.
Yeah. I
I,
was
I would
surprised to
I would love
see
that.
in some of those videos too, though, with Anthony Barella. I was surprised to see that he was maining a nuke more than he was maining a Zeus or a Force.
Um,
A
yeah,
Zeus, the combination of Zeus and Force, I mean.
he kind of pulled the Ezra.
But
Um,
to be fair, I want this to be very clear to everybody.
the nuke is still my
Um,
favorite too. So
yeah, but also like the nuke offers the Zeus in a higher speed. It really does, especially for his arm speed. It's going to be flippy like a Zeus, like a
yep,
high level arm talent player is going to throw a Zeus, but with that extra push. Um, Paul designed the Zeus for him. He took a prototype that was available and he said, "I can make that a good disc," and that's what we got.
right.
Um, Side note: I'm really excited. I actually came across from one of our followers here in the Knoxville region who had a prototype Kong,
Oh,
and that is going in my bag this season.
oh, did you get it from him?
Yeah, yeah,
Ha-
I got it from him. I'm really
Wow.
really excited about that. The other thing that I'm really excited about is when I was at the disc golf store the other day. Here's a little sidetrack for you guys. Don't worry about it. Uh,
Tangent time.
you know what I finally found? A Viking Loki. I was looking for one for so long after you let me borrow that one, and I was
Yeah,
like, please let me find one. I don't want to throw a zone. I don't want to throw, and I could never find one, and so
I'm
I
so
finally
upset.
caved, and I put
Um,
the zone in my bag, and uh, this on Sunday, just this last Sunday, I found that Loki, and I'm so excited to take the zone out of my bag because I don't like being like everybody else.
well, I was literally gonna text you. Um, I have a friend here that actually just messaged me. That's weird. Um,
That's the timing.
yeah, the timing. But he has a complete collection of West Side and Viking. That's that's
Wild.
that's that's all he has. So he has all of the Nico series West Side. Um, and then he has all of the Viking stuff. He had two Lokis in his bag, and he's selling out. He's selling everything. So
Well,
if you are wanting anything, or if any of the listeners are wanting anything that any of that piques your interest, hit us up. But
I would, um, but I'm going to do my darndest to get through as much of that list from Twitter as possible.
hey, there's probably some of those
There's
that are on there,
so many in there. I don't remember seeing Viking show up at all,
or West Side.
but I have thrown the Viking before, so I knew I wanted it.
Oh yeah,
At some West Side might have shown up. I can't remember off the top of my head. However, if you are listening to this right now and you are thinking, my bag is just missing one thing, or I would like to, break out of this habit I've been in the bag that I'm in and try some new stuff, um, go to our Twitter. It is literally at Tn2SDG on Twitter. Um, and it is actually the pinned tweet at the very top. Just go through that thread. There are literally like 80 comments of people selecting or recommending one
yeah.
disc.
They're
They're one disc for recommendation, because I try to limit it to, if you could only recommend one disc to anybody, what is the disc?
yeah,
So the first one that's on my list, that's from that list, is actually the Crave,
yeah.
um, the Axiom Crave, and that's specifically because I've really been wanting to add, um,
I have one.
a I'm really wanting to add something that is, I have a Buzz or a Ranger or the MD1, which are all, they fly different. I throw them for different things, but they're all that same concept of dead
Mhm.
straight mid range. Um, and then I have the Lariat for speed 9, dead straight mid range. For me, I throw it flips up to flat, maybe a little bit of turn, but zero fade. And I wanted something that was in between them, because that Lariat, if I really get behind it, is going 400, 425, and I'm throwing those mid ranges about 300, and I'm like, I don't want to power down on the Lariat because I don't get the flight that I like, but I just don't have the arm talent to really juice mid ranges, because I fan grip mid ranges. I can't power grip them to get that extra out of them. So I was like, Crave. It was between the Crave and the Passion. And so many people I've seen in the last few weeks are like, if you haven't tried a Crave, you need to try a Crave. So I actually got one for free at my tournament this last weekend, so I'm pretty excited to try that out.
Nice. Yeah. Keep us updated on what you think.
All
Um.
right, back to the contracts.
Yeah.
This one was a really cool one. And this one flew under the radar. I didn't actually know that this happened until I pulled up this list like a few weeks ago. Um, or a week ago, I pulled up this list. And Jake Hebenheimer signed a full contract with Latitude 64. And I think this is his first like officially announced contract sponsorship. Um,
I
of
still call that
exclusivity,
putt
not.
the Hebenheimer. The
Oh
Hebenheimer.
yeah, it
Hebenheimer.
is. I don't care what anybody says. You can call it a dad putt. You can call it the cornhole putt. It is the Hebenheimer.
Yep.
It always
It's
will be on this
stamped.
podcast.
Yep.
What
I
do you What do
agree.
you think?
I think it's a good move. Especially I think it kind of fills the slot of Emerson Keith leaving. Um, so am I saying that he's as good a player as Emerson Keith? He doesn't have the credentials um
No.
as Emerson Keith right now, but I think that I think it's a very solid replacement. Um,
What do you think he's Hebenheimering with this season?
um, in my personal opinion, um, if he's allowed, I don't know what he's allowed to do necessarily, whether he has to putt with latitude or not. Um, what I think is if he doesn't putt with latitude, it'll be a Warden. Um, that's kind of a go-to putter.
Right.
Um, and then if it is with latitude, it's hard to go against a pure. Um, The only thing that I will say about a pure is it's shallow. So um I don't know how
Yeah,
well it would work for his style of putt.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. When I've never really looked that deep into it. Is does he putt from the side with more of a power grip or a fan grip?
So it what I noticed is that it's almost a power grip.
See, because if it's a power grip, I feel like there is something to be said for the dagger because of its
That's
depth.
that's true. The dagger could be it actually.
Yeah.
Um it just depends on his hand size. Like I don't know how big his hands
Yeah, but
are.
if the thing is if he does putt from the side like that with more of a power than a fan, like he doesn't need big hands to
Yeah.
enjoy the extra depth he gets out of it. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah,
That
I'm
is easily what
curious.
I'm most intrigued to find out what he's going to be throwing more is what is he going to putt with because
Right?
it's Jake Ebenheimer.
Yeah.
Duh. All right.
That's such a memorable name too.
Yeah, he really does. Chronologically, we're going to skip the next name because you know why. DGA picked up another one in Austin Turner.
I don't understand this because he was with Discraft. Um, Discraft makes DGA molds. Um, I would assume that he still gets to throw his Discraft stuff. He just has to throw like a 60% DGA bag now. Um,
Yeah, I would imagine also you're talking about Austin Turner's. In doing so, he was probably elevated to a higher level, a higher team standing than he could be
yeah.
with the Discraft team. So monetarily, it means he's probably making more,
If it's
and
a
he still gets to throw his favorite Discraft molds because he will be
right,
allowed to throw some.
yeah. So the move, as long as it helps him monetarily, I think it's a good move. Um, Other than that, it's not really exciting.
Yeah. Uh, Discraft 2 signings back to back. Jake Mon.
Um, Jake Mon was with Prodigy, correct?
I do believe so, yes. I
He
know
was either with
his contract
Prodigy or
details were very
Innova.
quiet as well.
Um,
No, I'd have to say it's Prodigy.
I think it was
I don't remember
Prodigy.
ever seeing cuz I
Yeah.
don't remember seeing an Innova go on his back at MCO.
Um, yeah. So Jake Mon is an absolute weapon. Uh,
Yeah, that's true.
he is. He's up around East Tennessee, correct? Am I wrong in saying that?
Uh yes, he's not in the Knoxville circuit though.
Okay, okay. I
Uh
didn't know exactly where. Maybe like Georgia-ish. I don't know.
yeah.
Um,
I don't know enough about him on that one
but
just
I do know
to be
that
honest.
every time that I seen him, he had his hat turned around backwards, looking all cool, and he was absolutely canning putts. So the dude can throw in his basketball shorts too.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're not wrong.
I'm honestly a fan of Jake Mon. Like I really like Jake Mon, and I like this signing. Um,
So he's actually a South Carolina native.
I knew he was
That's
somewhere
why he
in
I
the
knew he got
eastern.
into the Tennessee circuit quite
Right.
a lot, but I knew it wasn't all the way in Knoxville. It's probably up more towards Zach Melton and Chris up in the
Yeah.
Kingsport area.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. I didn't know if it was exactly Tennessee. I just knew he played in the East Tennessee circuit.
He
Um,
does. He does get to the circuit. I know
yeah.
I've seen his name quite a few times.
Okay. But yeah, Jake Mon, huge arm, great putter, great thrower, uh, great signing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially since he was probably a player that they didn't have to fork out a whole lot of money to either, because he wasn't a part of their elite level team either,
Right.
because his announcement came around the same time as Paige Shu, who was signing with Discraft uh,
Uh,
on their second tier team,
yep.
which I thought was interesting. It might just be that Discraft kind of said, "Hey, we'll take you on. I know you." She obviously left uh, Dynamic for a reason. I'm not sure what it was, but I know she's expecting to tour more.
Yeah.
I know that at the very least. I'm here for it.
I mean,
But
they got her a big
She's
old
a world champ.
bus. Do you see that thing?
Yeah.
That thing's massive.
This is a big boy.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
Um, I
I think
will.
under the radar is the best signing by Discraft.
So this is. I've probably said this before on the podcast, but I don't remember. And for those of you that do remember, good on you. Um, but when I very first started playing disc golf, it was in 2018, and I didn't know what to do to start watching disc golf. I just knew I was looking it up on YouTube and seeing what was going on, and then somebody recommended Jomez Pro, and she was on every lead card in 2018. It seemed like, and then she
Yeah.
won the world championship, and I just kind of clinged to Paige Shue, which was Birkus at the time,
Yes.
and I I got into dynamic because of her. Like I was like, I want to get everything dynamic. I want to put everything that she puts. I want to, like
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of odd for a guy, honestly, the way that the sport is, a guy to follow into like an FPO as their like um
Yeah, but I mean,
main focus, I guess.
the thing about it is you kind of brought up the point essentially as it was is Paige was the player that year
Exactly.
in FPO.
And
NPO was a really mixed bag that year. I mean, you're
right.
talking, along with her being
It
kind
was
of an outlier, technically winning worlds, you had Greg Barsby winning worlds, and I
right.
mean, Greg was not instilling himself on a lot of lead cards like you know
She was the most common. It was like it's
exactly.
like you constantly see her there. And I am super super happy that she's getting back into it. I would follow her wherever she went.
Yeah.
Um it didn't matter to me. Um as long as she's got a signature disc, I'll get it. Just because she was kind of the one that helped promote me getting into the sport.
Yep.
So I'm a huge fan of the signing for Discraft. I kind of do think it's a little weird that she's on the second base team, even though she's a world champion. But knowing that she's getting back into it, it's understandable on Discraft's part.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good move. I think she's of the talent level that it's only going to take 1 year to elevate to the tour team.
I agree. I agree, and I hope she has a good touring season. Now that her kid is old enough to tour with them,
Yes.
I think it'll be a lot easier on her.
Paige seems like the kind of player that we might see replicate something similar to like what Chris Dickerson did last year.
I could see that. Yeah.
I think that might be kind of the goal. And I mean, this year is a really really interesting tour layout. If you look at from city to city, it's not as streamlined as we've seen in previous seasons by date.
Right.
The loop is a little different.
Right.
So it might also kind of encourage her to do something similar to what Chris did.
Right.
Um, all right, Heidi Lane signs with Clash Discs as well. Exclusivity, I
She
do believe,
is
primary sponsor.
she is from Finland as well,
I do believe so.
so that makes sense.
It gets them into the European market.
Yeah. So that's a
That
huge
really
signing for them.
it really brings it elevates them quite a bit.
Right.
Dustin Keegan to Infinite.
So this one is not a surprise, because I feel like he never really Dustin, if you're out there, do not hate me. I just feel like he never really fit the Discmania mold. Um, in my eyes.
He didn't.
Um, whereas he did a lot of work for Infinite. Um, he's based really close to Infinite. It just makes sense, and I think that he will honestly be a much better competitor with a mixed bag.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at Discmania and Infinite, kind of, making the moves that they did, Dustin going to Infinite and Discmania bringing on Gavin, it seems like a really clean swap that
Yeah,
elevates both of those players in what they do as
I
well.
agree.
And the last notable, besides the final contract we got to talk about, Cole Redolin to DGA.
I think he feels like he made a mistake
To DGA or to
to Infinite last year.
Infinite?
Um, he was with Discraft. He wasn't happy. He went to Infinite, and then he figured out, oh crap, I only throw Discraft in my mix bag,
Right.
and he, I think he felt like he messed up. I truly do. Like that's kind of the way it was. Like, um, you know, even with the whole controversy about him going to EV7 and then canceling his sponsorship with EV7 and then going back
Yeah.
to a Luna, kind of, I kind of seen it coming. I think he would go anywhere as long as he could putt with a Luna.
Yeah. EV7 just didn't really. It didn't elevate his game in any way.
No,
And so there's nothing wrong with that. I think EV7 makes some really great putters, and
I do too.
they definitely. I mean, I main EV7 fees, so
Right.
um, but I understand that like putters are the most feely of all of the discs in your bag, and if it's not elevating your game, there's no reason to continue. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I think he realized that, and that's a good thing on him.
yeah, yeah, I was kind of surprised to see the return to DGA overall, but maybe it was just a little bit too much in the past to go directly back to Discraft.
Maybe.
Um, so we'll see how it goes, because again, when you sign with a company like DGA, you get the opportunity to throw your favorite discs from Discraft and then main the rest. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's probably what's most important to him, is he's going to be able to. He has a lot of replicas of Discraft, but you know he will be able to throw the ones he finds irreplaceable from the Discraft lineup.
Exactly.
All right, that brings us to the big boy, the signing that nobody expected
The
and everybody
signing heard
expected
round the world.
all at the same time. Simon Lizotte leaves Discmania early to sign with MVP. Who saw it coming
I mean, a lot of people.
before the leaks?
Okay.
Who saw that
um,
coming?
I I don't think anybody.
Would you be comfortable saying that you thought Simon Lizotte was a Discmania lifer before this happened?
Yes.
Me too, 100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is something to be said with it. Kind of sucked that the wow factor was taken away by the leaks, but
Yeah. That leaky leaker.
he was such a Discmania lifer that it still feels like surreal.
Yeah. It
It really
does.
does. Watching him in his, vlogs the last week has just been like an out of body experience in terms of disc golf viewership.
Yeah. No, I agree. I
I,
agree. I think that the MVP Open, um, after he won that, I feel like that's probably when talks really escalated.
right.
Um, MVP's right there where he's at with Steve Dodge. Like it's all kind of collaborative, and I could I definitely see like the inner workings of MVP
Yes.
signing him, and I also think that's the reason that MVP didn't do anything else is because they put all their fish in one barrel. And all I'm gonna
Yeah.
say is that's the right barrel to have.
I mean, look, you know, disc golf doesn't have a cap space, but I promise you, he ate up all of MVP's cap space.
I completely
Um,
agree.
he, you know, and this is one of the most surprising things is that they bought out a full contract for $1 million and still gave him $1 million
Yeah,
upfront first year. This is you're getting this, and I don't think it couldn't be more important to any other company as it is for MVP because MVP has a really awesome concept. They have wonderful discs in their lineup, but it is very widely agreed upon that they are missing something
a
in their
distance.
lineup, in their designs, in their
Yeah,
their distance driver lineup is kind of pooped on a little bit,
yeah,
to put it lightly. Outside of two or three molds here or there, they're known for what they can do for players in that 9 speed and below category.
right.
Uh, and that Simon is going to fix that within the first year.
Yep, first year, guarantee it. He'll come out with something. Eh,
I I'm of the opinion that Simon will get a very similar treatment as Macbeth did in his first year, um, which is something we didn't see out of Dynamic and Ricky so much. There wasn't like a here's the new big thing. You had a couple of prior discs get retooled and shipped back out under Ricky, but they didn't really explode with anything that was
right.
new.
Let's just throw a Raptor
Um,
eye on it and say it's yours.
yeah,
Um, yeah. I don't think the MVP has the capability to do everything there. So, um, I personally think that Simon is going to have his own line of discs. Um, and I couldn't want that anymore. Like,
I think it's and not only is he going to have his own line, I would say it's going to progress at a similar rate to what Macbeth is doing right now. I would not be surprised if you see something similar to what happened with the Kong
yeah,
and the Kong becoming the Zeus. The Kong was basically a distance driver that they were holding back and they hadn't released yet. Paul got his hands on it and said, "I can make this work."
right.
And I'm really, really hoping that there's a few discs that are in the prototype stage already that they're like, Simon, take a look at these. What do we need to fix?
Right.
How can we retool this prototype and
And
make it the next Zeus,
right.
basically?
Yeah.
Um, so I really expect my thought process is that in the first 12 months they will release 3 discs to a Simon Creator Series, and it'll be in a similar pace as Macbeth after that as well. So it's basically Macbeth is in a very similar pace to that. There's about 3 discs in the first year or so, and then 1.5 discs every year after, or 2 discs every 2 years, or
Right.
3 discs every 2 years. Excuse me, is about the pace that they're on. So that's what I'm expecting personally.
Yeah. I mean, I'm right there on the same wavelength as you. Like that's exactly how I think too. Um, that doesn't happen very often. No,
No,
it does. It does. It does. But no, I'm
uh,
I'm right there with you. Um, and I think that if they try to do anything other than that, if they just try to let him use what they have, I think they've made a mistake.
yeah, and well, I don't think that's going to happen. And
Yeah.
the reason I don't think that's going to happen is if you look at the signing as a whole, you're talking about, um, and this is if anybody kind of remembers or if you follow me on Twitter on our main account, I am the primary user on that account. If you guys are ever wondering, and we talked a lot about it. There were a lot of conversations, and my thought process is that money talks.
Mhm.
And a lot of people got mad at me for that, and they were like, I just don't think the only reason he went there is, and I'm like, no, you're right. He did not just go because they gave him money. Okay, they said this is how much we want to give you. And he said, all right, I'm listening. What else?
Right.
Okay. Oh, I want you guys to think about that. It was money talks is what I mean, that
That's what
they
opens
open
the
the
door.
door.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. You can text somebody, hey, I got a contract offer for you, and they'll say, shoot. And you say, I'll give you $500,000 for 3 years, and he's
Like,
not even going to
sorry,
reply.
bud. Yeah.
But you say, hey, we'll give you $1 million a year, and then he says, I'm listening. Because when you look at Paul Macbeth's contract, when he signed, obviously the original deal was basically um, 1 year, approximately $1 million with uncapped potential.
Right.
And then they re-signed, renegotiated to something different. I think technically it was actually a 3 year contract originally that they renegotiated out.
Right.
But basically it was uncapped potential, and then they said, okay, you really outgrew this. We're going to give you 10-10. Simon didn't have to go through that particular phase. He does have a renegotiation phase, allegedly. Um, According to other media outlets, you're talking at the 5 year point, they're going to have a chance to renegotiate. If they've outgrown the contract, they'll probably sign something new and larger.
Yeah.
Um, but I think personally, you're talking, they said, we'll give you $1 million every year for 10 years, and we'll give you the freedom to design your own creator series, just like Macbeth. And he said,
Okay.
I got to think about it.
Yeah.
I got to think about it. And then he went to sleep that night, and he's like, I can design my own. I can do what I want.
Right.
I can bring my style of disc golf to this company.
Yeah.
And that was when it really started clicking.
Can you imagine an MVP tilt?
it's
Like,
it's not that hard.
no.
Basically, for an MVP tilt is just the fireball retooled.
Yeah.
It
Exactly.
would not be difficult at all.
No.
Um, I'm really interested to
I
see.
feel like it might be
Uh,
easier to make, honestly. Like, because the problem with the tilt through Discmania is it kept sinking off of the rim because of the concave. Well, if there is no
mm,
rim, it might be a little easier.
it could
You
be
might actually have a
the
mass production of stuff like that.
the so the only question is that the entire concept uh of MVP, and this is why their distance drivers have struggled so far, is high speed stability.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think like, oh, that means that it's not going to flip. Not necessarily. High speed stability and the quote unquote gyroscopic technology, the concept is that it pushes farther when it's in that flat stage.
Right.
It creates a gyroscopic stability, and that's where you're getting that extra distance. And then when it loses that, it still has gyroscopic stability, so it fades forward. Now, obviously, you can say, well, the technology is not real, it's fake, this, that, the other, but that's the concept. And I think it works because we've seen that they've kind of struggled with the distance drivers in their technology because they haven't been able to find that perfect mixture, maybe, of rim
Right.
weight or something along those lines for those higher speed discs. Um, Maybe Simon can help them push that along, but with that gyroscopic technology, it will be interesting to see just how overstable they can truly make a disc. Because the truth is, if it's that overstable, it doesn't have gyroscopic stability.
Right. But yet it's still going to be technically gyro. So there's some I mean,
Basically, what you're looking
there's
at is
some
Simon's going to go in
creativity
there
that
and
could be
he's going to
done here.
break all the rules that we
Yeah.
know of from
Right.
the MVP to this
Yeah, I mean,
point.
he's already wanting to break the black rim rule, so, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I think, in my opinion, Axiom should have the black rim and MVP should have the colored rims, but that's just me.
I mean, honestly, I like Axiom better anyways, but
Well, Axiom kind of does a better job of making discs that fly well for mid level players.
yeah, I completely agree.
For
Thanks
middle
for
for
that.
that middle arm speed.
I know.
The speed. This is being honest, bro. Like
Yeah, you ain't gotta
I
die.
I
It's
I
fine.
touched some really good distance, and there are some discs that I could, because the thing is, the what you have to understand too is it's not just how fast you can throw the disc, how much spin you can put on the disc. And Simon has already demonstrated that because Simon does not throw the hardest on tour anymore. But his spin rate is still top three in all of disc golf, in my
Right.
personal opinion. And his spin rate combined with that supposed gyroscopic technology has
Yeah.
already started breaking the rules of discraft or of MVP.
Right.
Excuse me. And that'll be really interesting to see how they adjust going forward
Yeah.
and
I'm.
how much creative freedom they give Simon
That's.
to
I
do
hope
so.
they give him like, here's the keys.
Drive it like you stole it,
Drive
baby.
it exactly. Drive it like you
Drive
stole
it
it.
like you stole it, baby.
That's what I'm hoping for. But you know,
I agree.
yeah, that was the big shebang.
That's it, man.
That was
We've caught up.
the off-season signings. Um,
That took us basically this whole show to do.
yeah, it literally took us an
So
hour and 45.
many. You know, we got through it pretty well. I mean,
I think
if you
so.
took we spent probably a combined 7 hours total
Yeah,
talking about all the signings that happened last off season, and I think this is potentially more volatile
I think so too.
overall.
I kind of liked
And we
this.
covered it in under 2 hours,
Yeah,
so not
yeah.
bad.
Did not really have to drag it out. Um,
No,
so do you want next week? I'd like to go over the schedule. Um, and potentially we'll go over the Jomez news. Um,
yeah, I think I think we could kind of pack because the thing is the Jonas news just isn't that big. I don't think it's going to be a
it's
long
not.
talk.
No.
I think we could probably cover the two biggest broadcasting news bases today
Okay. I
instead of
didn't know
saving
if
them
you
for
wanted
next
to
week.
do it for the schedule at the same time or not.
No, because when we talk about the schedule, the truth is outside of what we talk about today with Paul, we're probably not going to bring up much of this next week
Yeah.
with the primary tour schedule. So, for those of you who haven't heard because you're living under a rock, I guess I'm not really sure. Uh, the PDGA Euro Tour has partnered with DGPT and DGN um, to bring a point system that will be identical and implemented as a silver level points and a live broadcast of 7 Euro Tour events outside of what we're going to see from Sula, which is actually a Pro Tour event, not Euro Tour, and the European Open, which is returning for this consecutive year for the first time ever, I
Yes.
believe.
Yes, it used to be every other year.
Yes, but the addition of Sula and the success of Sula, not surprised that they decided to bring it around. Can we talk about that for a second? The major format in disc golf. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this, but do you think it's time conceptually as we're getting into this first time having a consecutive Euro Open, is it time for disc golf to stamp a Grand Slam?
Um, as for if you
So the Grand Slam, like if you talk about like tennis or
right,
golf, for example, you get the Grand Slams, you can take them all down,
right.
right? If we labeled the majors as a Grand Slam, made it tantalizing, made it coveted, do you think that would elevate majors and kind of help disrupt that conversation of majors aren't really that great in the Pro Tours where it's at?
Well, I mean, you would still have to win all of them.
True,
Um,
but there's never been a Grand Slam in disc golf before
no.
officially.
So I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's technically what we would call it anyways.
Not, I mean, not really,
I mean, what else would
because
you
if you
call
if you
it?
if you think about it technically in that scenario, then in 2015 Paul already has a Grand Slam, but nobody calls it that.
Mm, I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really see the difference, I guess.
So basically, I mean, it's not in actuality, it's not going to necessarily change anything from like a statistical standpoint. all it
Does
does is just heighten the level of the title of the
now,
majors.
however, if you put a bounty out for a Grand Slam, um, maybe something like that. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I mean in baseball you've got the Triple Crown
Yeah, do a $5 million
and
bounty for.
I don't know about that.
I mean,
I think you're talking about a trophy and maybe a good prize. I don't know about 5
a
millies.
trophy and a good prize. No, I'm talking about
No.
millions.
Okay, listen, we've got to get a singular event to 100,000 before you talk about millions for the Grand Slam title.
But think
Let's
about
let's
how
start there.
they're putting all their money in. It's like I don't know. But
I-
then if that
I'm-
happened, then they're like, well, why aren't our purses higher? So I get that too.
yeah, yeah, and I don't know. I think that there is at least slightly a possibility that if you were to essentially create the title of Grand Slam, make it something that is coveted and possible to win. Something happens if you win it, regardless of what it is at this point. Would that be enough to elevate majors to the point where we stop having the conversation of I don't know why we covet majors so much? Because that's a big conversation right now.
Yeah, it might. My personal self, I don't think so.
All right. Well, that'll be a conversation we have again later in the year, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Maybe. I don't know.
yeah,
As I mean, come on, it's been a while since somebody's hit a grand slam in golf and tennis, to be honest.
yeah. It
It's been a
used to
while. It's
happen
been
a
a minute.
lot in tennis. Um, Roger
Yeah,
Federer used to do
when
it
they were
all the time.
dominated by Federer and Dahl and then, the Williams sisters.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
And Maria Sharapova.
in golf we haven't seen a grand slam since Tiger,
Yeah,
I don't
which
believe.
yeah, that's I really stopped keeping up with it after Tiger. So,
Yeah.
I mean, as a lot
Interesting.
of people did.
Interesting. Back to the Euro Tour event. So for anybody who's wondering, the events, and I'm going to butcher these names because they're European. So just don't at me, bro. Don't at me. Number one, we're gonna get coverage for the Konopiste Open, the Krakow Open. That's probably not how you pronounce that at all. The
I would
Swedish
put
Open.
money on it that it's not.
That's not. That's not how you pronounce that at all. And I promise you, this is not how you pronounce this. The Skellefteå Open. That's in Sweden.
I feel like you
Um,
tried really hard on that, and I'm proud of you.
thank you. I. There's an accent over that last A, and I'm not sure what that accent means. So
Language.
there's also
It's hard,
there's
bro.
also a different type of accent over the first A of this one. I'm just gonna call it the Aland Open.
Alon.
There
No, you
is
use the same ah. You gotta do like a
a
land.
a, a
Alond.
Aland.
There you go. I bet
Uh,
that's it.
or maybe it is just and then a long a. So lawn, a lawnda, Londi Open,
Bro,
Allende,
oh my god, I wish we could cut that
Bolognese.
and make that a meme because what you just did there was great.
A
Alond.
lawn, lawn. Okay,
Oh.
the the Aluda Goose.
Is it even a real event at this point? Like, what the heck?
Estonia, forgive me, please. Okay,
Hey,
I don't know. I am
Estonia,
ignorant of your ways and
uh,
your pronunciation.
Europe always
Maybe
shows up on our Spotify, so they're gonna love this.
please hit us in the comments somewhere. Tweet me and tell me how that's pronounced, please.
Please say that last one again. Something about a loosey goosey.
And then
No, say it
the
again. I need you to say it again.
Aluta Goose.
A Lutaguse.
It could
Where's
be
this at?
Aluta Goose. That is in Estonia,
Okay.
Jovi, Estonia. I'm pretty sure that's Jovi.
That might be
I
my
would say that's.
favorite tournament name of all time.
And then there's the Andalusia Open, and that is actually the European Tour Championship, and that's in Spain. Um,
Ooh.
I want to say Andalusia is pretty accurate.
Yeah, you
It
sounded
was close.
confident, so I'm gonna go with it.
So those are your 7 events. They're going to be partnering with I don't know. Da, 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 da. Who knows? It Disc Golf Stream. That's what it is. Disc Golf Stream is going to help them overall with the broadcast, and as well as there's going to be an on-foot team that is going to be provided by the Euro Tour to do camera work. That's the
Okay.
way that they've at least alluded to, and I believe I've seen a couple of tweets about it. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I have no problem if you come at me and I'm legitimately wrong, please. But yeah, I mean that's pretty exciting. However, it created immediate controversy. As soon as it was announced, literally took 10 seconds for controversy to occur. I dipped my toes in the controversy.
Who would have
um,
guessed?
Foundation, if you guys are listening to this, I know you're not, but if you are, listen, I wasn't trying to come at you guys, okay? Long story short, I tweeted something. Basically, Foundation kind of just a few of the accounts between Brody, Hunter, I think Silas might have gone in for a second. Um, they just kind of like tweeted a little direct at it, and I kind of felt like, wow, they really went after the Pro Tour for for this move. Like they're legitimately convinced over there that the Pro Tour only did this to follow Paul Macbeth. So for anybody who didn't see, Paul Macbeth announced that he's going to be taking a longer European tour. He's going to be skipping the DDO, the Des Moines Challenge, the Preserve, the Portland Open, and the Music City Open, all to be over there at this event. Um, and I thought that was really interesting. Ulti World noted specifically that he had played DDO in Emporia for 16 years straight. He's has not skipped it. Um, Now, here's the thing. Number one, Paul Macbeth has said publicly on multiple occasions, I would love to do an extended tour of Europe. This
Right.
is nothing new. We know that he wanted to do an extended year. The word on the street was that 2020 was actually going to be the year that he made it happen, uh, and then it didn't happen because COVID happened.
Right.
For anybody who was wondering, um, and I believe the way that Jeff Spring kind of talked about the European Open and how they really wanted to improve presence along with DGN and everything that they were doing, 2020 was the first year DGN really saw that extended uh like coverage of live coverage and where they really dipped their toes in it. Obviously their coverage ended up being cut short and everything, but they said we really wanted to make noise in Europe, and I believe that 2020 was actually going to be planned as being the first time we saw European Open consecutively. And then that didn't happen. So I believe that there was a plan back then that Macbeth made 2020 the year that he wanted to do that. That came crashing down. It never happened. Well, he announced about 20 days before this announcement came out, I'm doing an extended tour in Europe. Lo and behold, 20 days later, Pro Tour announced this entire deal where they're covering the 7 events, 5 of which are on Paul Macbeth's list.
Right.
And so it created a little bit of a controversy. Is the Pro Tour just following Macbeth out there? Did Macbeth possibly call them and say, hey, you guys want to follow me over? You know, what all this, that, and the other is going on? Now, I got sassy with some people. Big surprise there. Daniel was sassy on Twitter. Woohoo! Who knows? Uh, I don't know what your thoughts are, your immediate thoughts when you see that in connection with each other. But my first thought is number one, um, this is not the kind of a deal that takes place in 20 days. Um, you do not organize this level of coverage in 20 days. So there is zero shot that they saw Paul's announcement and said, let's make this happen.
Right.
This is clearly something that has been happening before that. Was there a possibility that Paul and Jeff Spring colluded? Sure. Both of them come out and said that they weren't, but that they did have a conversation with each other around the time that Paul did make his announcement. So they were aware at the very least. There was Drew Gibson, of course, who tweeted something along the lines of a screenshot of a text message allegedly from Paul that said, "Do you think that if I was colluding with the Pro Tour to go over there, that I would have made them all Silver Series events? Come on, bro." Is essentially what that said.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. Whether it's real or not, who knows? Drew is Drew. um, but I mean, I'm personally of the opinion that Sula performed so well in the European Open, performed so well that Jeff Spring was on the phone with people in Europe that very next week,
That was
saying,
one of the
"Let's make this
more
happen."
exciting stretches of the year that I really enjoyed those tournaments. So
I thought Sula was just going to be like something to watch the weekend before
it was
European Open.
absolutely my favorite Silver Series to watch.
Hands down, it's not even close. The
Yeah,
courses were elite and beautiful all at the same
beautiful.
time,
And you get to
like
put on a
so
tractor.
well maintained. Like, yeah, that's true.
It was
Like
my favorite part.
that was so
I
cool.
loved
And
it.
then throwing through the gates of Valhalla, that was
That's
beautiful.
awesome.
It was so
The
great.
course was
And
just so well put together. They had been waiting for their opportunity and they seized it. That's what they
and
did.
it's exactly what it is. I think that the timing couldn't have been better.
Yeah.
I know it created the controversy, and I'm not gonna lie, the timing was suspect.
Yeah. The
Okay,
the
I'm
timing was
not.
a
I'm
little
not.
weird, but
I'm not gonna say that Foundation was wrong to make the analysis that they did,
oh, absolutely not.
but they definitely should have sat down and thought a little bit longer before they kind of, they should have thought about the concept that this was in the works more than likely immediately after Sula was successful, because Sula was not just successful; it was unprecedentedly successful.
Yeah.
We've never seen a Silver Series have that level of success. I mean, it I think Sula as a Silver Series still made my top 10 favorite events of the year.
Oh, top 10? It made my top 5. They gave an axe as a trophy. They
That's
putted on a tractor
you
for hole
you are
18.
not you're not wrong, man. You are not wrong. So,
Dude, the trophy was one of the best I've seen. It was a Viking axe. That thing was
yeah,
sick. Greg Barsby holding it, that's iconic. That's stamped in my brain.
yeah. Now and then the other thing that I said a lot, and people kind of were ho hum about. They were like, "Well, I mean, it's still fishy," and I'm like, because this was the other argument. If they're going to add points to the event, number one, and include all of that coverage, that was the big thing, was adding points to it along with Paul going over there felt like favoritism, and I see that, and I
Right.
agree with it
Yeah.
to a point. But also, I mean, you have to imagine, like, they were like, well, why didn't players know about it at least? Number one, it wasn't a done deal. Number two, Simon Lazat. You guys are like, what the hell does Simon Lazat have to do with this? Leaky leakers, man. You're going to tell an entire pro tour that we're adding points to European events. If you want to sign up, you better do it now. And that's not going to make noise.
Right.
You are kidding yourself. There's no way they announced it. And I did love that a couple of nights later, Brody's new Disc Golf Hour podcast. Really cool. If you guys have a chance, jump on the Twitter space, because Paul Ulibarri has been joining regularly, and Paul Ulibarri did a great job of putting it in perspective, that which is exactly what I tweeted. They're not going to announce something that's not done yet. They can't.
Right.
It's just because you have no idea. You tell all the players, hey, this is what we're planning on doing. You should consider signing it up, and then the deal falls through. Then what? Now you have half your players, allegedly. This is the way people were making it seem like. Now you have half your players competing on the Euro Tour, not getting any points because they thought there were going to be points.
Right. No,
Now, the one thing I do have to say was kind of like, Hunter on the Disc Golf Hour made a really good point. Um, they made the announcement, and when they made the announcement, two of the events that were listed here were already 100% full. One of them being the Kona Piste Open, meaning that after the announcement, if anybody wanted to, they couldn't. It was too late. So that basically means Paul and Paul
right.
was going in to get into that event because he had already registered. I agree with that. I think that there should have been a little bit better of a mindfulness, and maybe that's the biggest shortcoming of this deal, is the Pro Tour in Europe and the Disc Golf Pro Tour not making an agreement to hold off registration for that event until
At
the
least
announcement
have a
came.
certain set of openings. You know what I mean? Like
Yes. Yeah, or make a
have
deal that
have
allows
25
for.
openings and
Yeah, because if you look at the actual Pro Tour, there is actually a set of protected registrations for European players.
exactly.
So if you're going to make that deal, I agree that that would have been a really good contingency plan, is
Yep.
set aside a protected amount of registrations for American players. And then if they don't get filled, which they probably wouldn't have, then that's when they go to the next available wait list.
Exactly. And
that
simple as
was
that.
that would have been such an easy fix.
Yeah.
Hmm, so much. But outside of that, I have to say I'm really excited. I mean, that means, we're going to have, 5 or 6 weekends where we're going to get double coverage
Yeah.
this year, where we're going to have a big Pro Tour event. And then, if you want to watch disc golf deep into the night or wake up really early, you're going to have more disc golf.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
No, we will have
Ah,
plenty to cover. I know that.
plenty to cover. Now, along with that big announcement, just today they've made another new announcement, which was awarding post production coverage and creating new contracts. And the biggest noise that we saw is that GK Pro will be stepping down from covering the FPO lead cards, and Jomez will be taking up the FPO lead cards.
Correct.
What are your thoughts?
Um, a little bit surprised. Um, by GK Pro letting it go. Um, I feel like they've done a lot to promote the FPO. I feel like they've done a good
Yes.
job um, as the sole leader in FPO. Um, I know I haven't seen what they've picked up. Um,
They haven't.
okay,
So the way that is actually going to work, according to GK Pro and the announcements prior, is that they are actually going to be spending more time focusing on the Tour Skin series
right.
and creating it to be a day prior ticketed event for them to essentially produce all together and focus on, and that's going to be owned and operated along with the Pro Tour as opposed to as their own side project that Pro Tour helped out with here and there.
I I love it. And honestly, you can't go wrong if you're gonna watch next day coverage. You can't go wrong with Jomez. They will do a
No.
fantastic job. Um, they are the lead card, you know, and it
Yes.
just makes sense to have MPO and FPO, and they can get it out so fast. So, um, yeah, to have that, all the elite, elite plus, and playoff events.
Yeah, I'm
They
gonna I'm
don't
gonna
say
also
anything about the Silver Series though, so I don't know if
yeah,
that's only.
I'm interested. I'm gonna try to find this tweet from Green Splatter that
Mhm.
had a quick breakdown of basically what you're gonna see. Um, so Jomez Pro will have MPO, FPO for majors as well as elites, and that is going to be for the entirety of the season. Gatekeeper is going to continue with the chase cards, and Ace Run Pro is going to take the chase card for FPO.
Right.
If you haven't seen, so that's the first time we've added Ace Run Pro officially to the Pro Tour lineup. Um,
Which they
now,
deserve it. I really like their coverage. It's good.
yes. And so, from what we see here in this graphic as well, Central Coast Disc Golf will film FPO1 and MPO1 at all silver events, and their lead card coverage does not include the European Tour, as that'll be handled by MDG Media. So, that'll
Okay.
be because
Yeah.
they're calling them silver events essentially, or
I'm
pointing them as silver events. So, just so you know, Central Coast is not going to handle post produced coverage in Europe.
right.
But they will retain post-produced coverage.
So does that mean Champs versus Chumps coming back? Cause I would love that before Silver Series. That would be epic. I love that.
Could could be could be. Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I have to say about that is Central Coast did a really good job last year. However, they did falter from time to time getting coverage out on time.
Right.
So I really hope to see them put a emphasis on it
I think they
to just
will.
improve that in
I think
particular.
they will now, knowing that uh kind of the limelight that they're in now.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think I think it'll put a little bit of pep in their step.
Yeah, especially when we had that one event last year where second round wasn't even posted when final rounds were completed,
Yeah,
and there was some people upset about that.
I remember.
But almost took 48 hours for them to
They
get a
lost a
second
lot
round
of they lost a
out.
lot of views that way too. I mean,
Yes.
no sense in watching it if they already know what happens.
Yeah, well, and the thing that was really rough too is that, and this is why I think that they'll probably put a pretty big emphasis on it, is that all of that stuff was posted directly to the Pro Tour
Yeah,
page. So the Pro Tour actually is, you know, they took the flack. It was not really directed to Central Coast by most of the general public.
right,
Only the people who were really paying attention to the fact that Central Coast does them really understood. Like, hey, it's not really the Pro Tour's fault. It's Central Coast. They haven't been getting them out.
right.
So
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'm looking forward to it.
yeah,
So we shall see.
um, yeah. So
That's
it
that's
was
about
weird
it,
to be
huh?
back, man. I'll tell
Yeah.
you what.
But yeah,
Anybody here
yeah.
who's
Here
made
we
it to
are,
this
2
point,
hours and 10 minutes in, and it's just like,
anybody here who's made it to this point, I want you to know, number one, uh we did this was a little bit of like an homage to the old us, which
yeah,
was completely unscripted here. We had topics, that was about it, and then we just kind of did what we wanted with them. We're gonna keep a little bit of that vibe, but we're gonna script a little more
yeah.
going
We're
forward.
gonna try
So
our best to.
if you've listened to us, we're gonna make two efforts. Number one, we're gonna shoot for 90 minutes. So we're gonna really try to hit that 1.5 hours stage and try not to push that too much. It helps us with the clip it and ship it aspect,
Yeah,
specifically on the audio side of getting it up and available the next day. This episode might actually end up coming out a little bit later because we went so long. Depends on how long it takes to strip the audio. Um, but yeah, look forward to that. Look forward to the fact that we will be on YouTube next week for the very first time. And if you want to
yep,
join us on YouTube, we look forward to it. And we hope that we get somebody rolling around in chat.
yeah.
Um,
It's a
but
new journey.
yeah, it's exciting.
Season 2 of
And
Tennessee Twos.
yeah, who knows? We might add some graphics throughout the year as we kind of
Absolutely.
continue upgrading the podcast and making it flow a little bit better.
Right.
Um, but thank you for whoever continued while we fumbled along, clearly out of practice, um, and recapping so much information. Because I'd imagine anybody who's made it this far in the episode has probably heard 90% of this information at least once, if not 3 or 4 times now. So it means a lot that you stuck with this episode, really.
Absolutely. And first person that tells me how many times I said absolutely in this episode, because I know it was a lot. Um,
So what I'm hearing is that the first graphic upgrade is going to be an absolutely counter on the top of the screen for next week.
yeah, that needs to happen.
I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying that if I could make one critique over what I would like to see change about DGN this year, I don't want to hear the word incredible ever again. If I
Yeah.
have to hear the word incredible by Elaine King or just anyone really, the word
I'm just tired of
incredible was
hearing
so
incredible when it wasn't incredible.
just that was incredible. They threw a mid range down the middle of a wide open fairway. Yay!
Yay.
Incredible.
Yep.
And then the other one as well is the saving par. Uh,
Yeah.
if they throw a great shot up to circle two, miss their putt, and then tap it in, and you say the word saving par.
Yep.
All right, now we're really nitpicking.
Yep. Yep.
That's
We're at the
a,
point to where we don't need to be.
that's
All right.
uh,
Well, I'm good. You're good. Tennessee
we're good.
Twos, we're back. We will be back at a regularly scheduled uh, time and session each week. Um, hopefully, um, that is our goal, and we are back in it. And we hope to see all of you there. We thank everybody for listening uh, on our very first episode of
Yeah.
season 2. And with that said, we hope everybody has a great rest of your week. Go play some disc golf, get out there, have fun, and we will see y'all later.
No.
Peace.
Wait.
What?
Our outro. We have the phrase. We're not ditching that yet.
I mean, this is a new
Everybody,
season.
everybody, we will see you on the next hole.
Okay. You just remember. You remember this, all right? I say it. We'll see y'all on the next hole. Peace.
Peace.